The Rockpile Report, the pettiest, hardest drinking Bills podcast.
The funny thing about doing cold opens, instead of the whole wind up and all the pomp and circumstances, that everybody has to catch and wonder whether the podcast started or not, or they wonder, is this still part of the advertisement? I think I recognize that voice. Guys, we're here. It's the Rockpile Report podcast. We have a special guest in studio, or two of them actually, Buffalo Happy Hour. The guys from Buffalo Happy Hour, abject professionals, they're here. One of them lives right, across the street? How do you want to describe where you live?
Basically right around the corner.
Right around the corner.
Yeah.
Did you walk here?
I did not, because this guy texted me 3 minutes before he was going to pick me up, and he said, guess what, I'm picking you up. So I would have started walking here, or at least drove here, but he's like, you know what, I'm on my way.
My car was already cold with AC.
Great timing from him.
Already cold with this. Chris, that's what thoughtful podcast partners do for each other, right? You can tell that these guys are friends. Guys, Mike and Derek, the Buffalo Happy Hour podcast. Now, it's funny, I became aware of you guys because you did a show with our friend Reed Ferguson, who I'm actually now business partners with, which is weird to say.
Dude, congrats on that. That's awesome.
Congrats. And so I watched the show that you guys did over at First Line Brewing. And then I started going down the rabbit hole of your podcast, and I realized you guys it's a multifaceted show, and I love that. I love the fact that you guys get to do kind of what you want to. It doesn't have to be topical. It's whatever you guys are thinking about at the time, but then you also have variation between your shows. Chris, we do that. Between reviews, previews, the AFC's roundup shows that we do with a very set group of guests versus variety shows that we do during the offseason. Sometimes literally no football gets talked about. It's just you and me getting hammered in the basement. And for some reason people show up and listen to it. I love that you guys have that same dynamic, but you get to cover so many more topics, and it's far more abstract. I really like that. Now, is it hard coming up with new topics every single week?
Absolutely. And one of probably the best thing that we did, because we tried a bunch of different things. I mean, our weekly episodes that drop Monday really have they used to have no rhyme or reason to them. We try to do a history of Buffalo miniseries where we talked about prominent people of Buffalo and historical things that happened within Buffalo. And then I think one day you just decided to start bringing up useless facts. So now that's what we start the episode with, is just a random useless fact that he found on the internet. And then we kind of riff off of that for a little bit. So outside of that, it's kind of difficult to come up with topics and things to talk about. But if we can riff off that useless fact for a little bit, then that helps the episode flow.
Now, if you do Buffalo history stuff, have you touched on who shot McKinley?
We did dive into the McKinley assassination when we were going through the prominent people of Buffalo miniseries. We also talked about the great William Carrier, who generated and created air conditioning. So all the little nicks and knacks that are...
Not the guy for Las Vegas Golden Knights.
No, not the same.
Different guy.
Different guy completely. But each deserve, some recognition, I would say. But we focused on all of those prominent people just to kind of bring a little bit more focus so that people don't think Buffalo is just kind of like a blue-collar, Rust Belt type city. There's more to Buffalo than that, and when you're local, you're trying to focus on the good outside of the fact that it snows for 9 months and the same rhetoric. So we always try to mix it up with that, just to, I don't know, I mean, the four of us in this room are Bills fans, so we're optimistic by nature, so we just try to bring that into our show.
The funny part is you guys are out here doing so much good for the image of Buffalo, and I'm just over here getting hammered, and I'm absolutely cut. Chris, would you agree with that? I'm doing just as much harm as they are good.
100% true.
And I remember you guys won Buffalo Spree, gave you guys the award for Best Buffalo Podcast. And I remember seeing it and going, I know who those guys are. That's interesting. What was it like being recognized on that level here locally? Considering you started as a local pod. Yeah, that.
Dude, we freaked out. Yeah. I mean, we're like, well, wait, why? Us? For real? And then we took it in stride, of course. And the best thing about running this podcast, and which is now, it's a business, it's an LLC, we're able to do what we want to do as our own bosses. So it's an award ceremony. What do you wear? Whatever you want. So let's just wear suits. Let's just go there. Let's just do it and then do our own thing. And graciously, we won the award again in 2023. So we're back-to-back champs. So we got the same record as the great United States. And we show up again in suits, and some of the other winners also won last year, and they're like, are you guys just trying to be like best dressed outside of the award that you already won? And we're like, well, I like dress what you want to be, I guess. Like just have like take some pride in it. But we're obsessed with all of the shows that involve suits, like
Suits.
Yeah, Suits is a good example. White Collar's a great example.
But we still have massive imposter syndrome, though.
Massive.
So, let's not let...
We're just trying to... Yeah, we're just trying to have fun with the fact of, like, we can be flexible and enjoy being business owners without being, like, really annoying. It will, like, be us. So we'll just go off the rails. We'll talk about things that are really insensitive, and then all of a sudden we get an award. You're like, this still makes no sense. And then other people are like, dude, you guys are almost, you're OGs for small business advertising in the area. And... we appreciate that. And we're like, yeah, but like, are we? Like, we're just kind of who wants to be on the show is our mantra.
Well, it is kind of cool, this idea that like we are just guys who sit around. You guys have done whiskey reviews. You're huge for that. Like that's another thing that you brought to this. We started doing cocktail reviews just because I've always made fun of him. As soon as he picked up this habit of this hobby, I'll call it, of being a craft cocktail connoisseur, I just roast him. I roast him. I told him the one time he was making something in a hurricane glass, which I'm sad that I know what that is. It's in a hurricane glass with pebble ice. And I see this, and he's taking an aluminum straw and he's sliding his drink into this thing with fruit and all kinds of shit coming out of it. And he looked so pleased with himself that there was a part of me that wanted to slap it onto the floor. It's like Big Brother, like you just look too happy and I have to ruin this. And so then this thing started where he goes, okay, fine. I'll start making them. You tell me to stop when you hate them. And I begrudgingly have to admit that he, like...
It was a couple weeks ago we had the... I made him a millionaire whiskey cocktail.
That was gross.
Not good. It had, like, you go down the list of ingredients.
He's like 36 and 1 at this point.
It's like bourbon, Grand Marnier, lemon juice, egg white. All of those are good, just not together.
What got you into making cocktails in the first place?
It was Brett Coleman on YouTube. He does film stuff, like Film Room. He'll like last summer, we drafted Khalil Shakir. He hits us up on Twitter and says, I want to do a video of why Khalil Shakir was your best pick of the draft and what he's going to mean going forward. And with that, I'm trying to make another buffalo cocktail. He's already used hot sauce. He did one for Pancho Bila and used hot sauce. So he hit us up and was like, what's buffalo? And I mentioned to him Loganberry syrup. So he made like a whiskey sour with Loganberry syrup. And now that I'm close to his level in cocktail making, he'll hit me up for ideas.
So I have an off question from cocktails because you dropped a huge name. So I really need to know your opinion on what do you want to see out of Shakir this year?
I mean, all I need him to be is like a 3 or he could be a 3 or a 4 because you have Diggs, defined number 1, Davis, kind of defined 2. You could also throw Knox as a 2, and then because you spent first round capital on a tight end, he could be a 2 or a 3. So there's not much, like, just catch the ball when it's thrown to you. That's essentially what I need from Shakir.
There's more stress on Davis this year than there is on Shakir, I think.
The field. Seeing the field is what I'd like out of Khalil Shakir, and that's completely out of his control, I think, to a certain degree.
Sure.
I think last year he was marginalized for most of the season where they were letting Isaiah McKenzie run around and do Isaiah McKenzie things. It's like apropos of nothing. They go, hey, you know what you deserve is an 80% snap share slot wide receiver. Sure, we'll give that to you. Oh, why isn't our offense working? How come we're not getting more production? And then they decide in the playoffs to turn to the kid. And then you're shocked that he has a couple drops? This is the NFL. This is hard. It's very difficult to go downfield, then elevate that catch that he dropped where he had to jump. He's not a tall wide receiver.
No.
You have to elevate at least 1.5 feet in the air, catch the ball while it's being contested, and then come down with it cleanly. And oh, by the way, this is your 9th target of the season? The fucker, what are we asking this kid to do? If you want him to be valuable at the end of the season, you got to give him a little bit of runway as a rookie. Otherwise, that's what you get, is the rawness of a rookie. I think that there's pressure on Gabe Davis, to your point. I think that looking at Khalil Shakir, I just want him on the field. I want you getting reps, because even if you're not great, we were already one of the league's most efficient offenses last year. Not efficient, but we were effective. We were second in scoring. And like, I think I saw the graphic today, Warren Sharp put it out, of all the teams that had drives that ended in a punt or just a turnover on downs, Kansas City was first. We were second as far as like the lowest. And that's crazy, considering we had this giant albatross at slot wide receiver just because we chose to let that guy play out his contract.
Right.
Let the kid, you couldn't have done worse. I mean, maybe you could have. It's the NFL. I hate saying that because they're all professionals, and you go, oh, that guy, you couldn't get worse than Ryan Fitzpatrick. And then EJ Manuel shows up, and you go,
yeah, you can.
Shit. Yeah. Shit, I said that.
There he is.
Yeah, there it is.
There's worst.
And then you go to Houston and Ryan Fitzpatrick beats you. Yeah. And you're just like, oh, shit.
Yeah. Handedly, mind you.
Oh, no. And you go, oh, God, our guy threw an interception for a touchdown to J.J. Watt. Oh, no. This isn't going to go well. Like, that's what I want to see. So as we move on with tonight's show, it's a banner day here. We've got great guests. Also, guys, imposter syndrome. I thought about it when you said it. The only one of you, like the only imposter I see is like that guy's voice. Derek's voice, I genuinely thought was fake. I thought it was like a voice filter or some kind of a Chris, like a I don't know, an alteration setting. And then the podcast kept going and the voice kept going. And I go, oh, shit, no, that's just what he sounds like. He's the only person to come in here and do a show where we haven't had to really worry about him not having like a cloud lifted microphone because his register just stands out.
I will say, though, you have more voice inflection than I do. So mine kind of gets a little drony after a while. I feel like, at least. I don't know. I hate listening to my voice. I'm sure you're the same.
We all do. Yeah. I don't listen to our podcast. People go, oh, you don't listen back and take notes? Fuck no. I hate listening to myself.
Yeah.
Although the other night, Chris, I did get hammered in my basement and re-listened to the Damar Hamlin podcast we did.
Yeah.
That was rough. I don't even know why, too. It was after like 5 glasses of whiskey, and I was like, you know what? I should re-listen to that. Now I'm sitting there all misty-eyed, just being like, damn it. Why did I do this? And then my wife shows up out of nowhere, and I've got headphones on. So she's been standing there for 10 minutes just watching me staring at my phone like an idiot. She's like, what are you doing down here? It's 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm just like, there's dust. Go to bed. What are you doing here? Chris, I reacted like she caught me watching dirty movies on the internet.
Yeah, it makes sense. Before we get into the meat and potatoes, I mean, you guys are the Buffalo Happy Hour, and you did go through my selection of stuff. True. So, A, did you like it? And B, so everyone knows, what are you drinking?
I did like it. I like any large whiskey selection because that means that you've tried everything from Mellow Corn, because we've talked about it, to Dalmore 12, which I'm currently drinking. The thing with our podcast is we always like to say we've done over 160 whiskey reviews so far.
Yes.
So the biggest thing that we like to do is just try everything. Like, there will be something under $30 that you will love. And people just think because it's cheap that it's not good. But I can tell you, Devil's River from Texas, that's one of our favorites, and it's under $35 here in New York, which is crazy. Not much is under $35 in New York, but Devil's River whiskey is. And that's kind of why I like looking at people's whiskey selection, is there's something that is an underdog because either it was given to you or something like that, and I try to pick that out like, oh, that's cool, they have that. And, I mean, Dalmore is a little bit more expensive, but Dalmore 12 is an amazing scotch. That's what I'm drinking. Is that what you're drinking, too?
I started with that. I enjoyed it. I didn't have a heavy pour of it out of respect, naturally.
Oh, come on.
Oh, no, dude, that's part of it. Like, it's just, that's what it is. That's just who I am, though.
Okay.
I can't, it's not my collection, you know? I would have went like 4 fingers into Glencairn if it was my collection.
It's the after show.
Pause. But, so I started with a nice simple pour of the 12-year, and then I switched to it was a TX. right?
TX,
yeah, the TX out of Texas. I'm obsessed with Texas whiskey.
Really?
The water there is, I don't know, it's just different, so it's good.
Okay.
I bought that bottle in Cleveland on the 3rd because that week I drove to Cleveland for the Indians game. We stopped at a handful of liquor stores, and I did pick that one up in Cleveland because I don't think I've seen it here at like Premiere or anything. And then there are some stuff because we also went on a road trip to Arlington, Virginia, Stamford, Connecticut, and then to the Catskills. So I think I picked up like 8 bottles on the road trip. And since I've been like since Brett Coleman got me into this, like my brother lives in Kansas City. Last summer, went to Kansas City, bought a bunch of bottles. We're going again for Christmas this year. Going to pick up more bottles in Kansas City.
Oh yeah.
I like the fact that you have more things than just Kentucky bourbon options. So it's nice to have, Buffalo Trace, especially in our area, just because it's essentially an allocation at this point. But I like the fact that you branched out to other states because there's wonderful options outside of Kentucky and Tennessee that most people never even heard of. So
Well, he's constantly broadening my horizons with these whiskeys that he's finding and the things that he brings in here. I try not to abuse it, but also after a while you just get comfortable enough, you just start doing it.
There will be a time where there's going to be a bottle that's like, and you were talking about this earlier with the like, I don't want to do a healthy pour. There's going to be a time where Drew, like, there's a little bit left in the bottle, and I'll go, hey, I'm taking this bottle home with me. And I'm like, okay. I mean, I can go get another one. I make money. I have a job.
Hey guys, I'm just taking this one for the road, and he'll just be like, "All right, I guess that's what we're doing here." It's too comfortable. I'm basically like what's his name, Rick James, when he comes in and puts his boots on your couch. If you let me stay too long, I turn into that guy. So
it's funny every time Derek hosts we try to hang out outside of the podcast, but we do so much with the podcast that we see each other like 2 to 3 times a week. So it's that weird balance, right? Because to your original point, we are actual friends outside of work. So it's funny because I'll go to his house and he'll just host like a simple friends gathering, have a fire, whatever, just hang out. And he'll pour me something and he's like, guess what it is? And then everyone at the party stops talking to watch. And I'm like, this isn't a science experiment. Like, what is going on? And then I'll sip it and I'm like, okay, it's got to be 3 options. And he's like, okay, all right. And I was like, these are the 3 options. And he was like, nice job. Which one is it? And I'm like, oh, then I sweat. I'm like, this is like a thing.
Chris enjoys doing that to everybody who comes over. He's like, I'll make a cocktail. All right. He's like, and I go, oh, what is it? Just shut up and drink it.
Yeah.
And then he'll wait. And then after everyone's had a little bit, he'll be like, all right, here's what you're drinking. And it never fails. I mean, the man delivers.
Yeah.
So we went over it last week with, you see that, my hand.
Oh.
Yeah, are you good? What's up with that?
Cocktail injury.
Y peeler.
Oh, it wasn't a spoon?
No.
Garnish.
He removed the tip of his finger with a Y peeler. And then he literally removed the nail, like piece of the nail bed.
Went through the nail bed.
And I haven't laughed that hard in so long because in my mind, the only thing I can say is you don't tell that story. Like, I'm a man. If I cut my finger off with a peeler, absolutely no one is hearing about that. I will lie.
What would you come up with?
Anything. I was cutting a pipe in my garage in my workshop and I cut it with a hacksaw. I don't know. Something better than I was making a drink and I thought, I could really use a garnish. And then I took my fingertip off with a peeler.
That's fair.
Sorry. I wrestled the jaguar. It doesn't matter. Anything is better than that.
Yeah, so the cocktail that I made when I did this, I made it for Drew last week. The Hudson Whiskey backroom deal that I picked up at the distillery because I haven't seen it here. It's a rye whiskey finished in peated Scotch barrels. So I used that and made Drew a penicillin.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
It was
He
really
loved
good.
Penicillin are fantastic.
Yeah, those are great
One of the best
cocktails.
Yeah.
See there again.
So
all
you
of you know
remove
what this
remove
is.
the
That was my first one
the
ever.
peated Scotch float because it's already in with the rye whiskey.
Oh, so you didn't do a float? Okay.
No, because you get that peated taste
that.
already in the rye.
Little slight modification. Good for you.
He freewheels. He does these things. I just sit here and drink. It's almost like I watch. He's over here shaving nuts. I'm like, what the fuck? You're grating things.
I do have all of the nut syrups that you can think of: the walnut, the chestnut, the pecan syrup.
You make your own?
I text him and I ask him what he's doing. He goes, he'll send me a picture and it's just a pot boiling on the stove of nuts. I go, you're an idiot. I can't talk. And then literally whatever I was texting him about, I stop and I go, no, not today. I'll tell you tomorrow. I'm too angry about
Yeah,
this.
I'm going to take a break from you.
I can't talk to you right now.
This old fashioned that I'm almost done with is with the Still Austin bourbon, a smoked, I think, pecan and chestnut syrup, and then Turkish tobacco bitters.
This is my life. This is my life, guys.
Stuff that no one's ever heard of.
No one's ever heard of.
Tobacco bitters.
Yeah, Fee Brothers. They make it.
So
That's sick.
Here's something else no one's ever heard of. A project manager quitting, maybe fired in the middle of a project. So the guy who has been the focal point of the Bills stadium situation, Ron Raccuia, he has been literally the face of this stadium expansion, from the planning stage to the announcement that they had reached a deal with the city, to the announcement that they had renderings. It was Ron Raccuia who was the face. Right? He was the voice. He was doing press spots. He was doing junkets. He was doing stuff for the website. Anytime WGR had questions, he was on the radio answering them. And then all of a sudden, oddly, on like a Tuesday morning, they announced that he's left the organization shortly after ground gets broken. You're a project manager, right?
Yep.
Now, I myself manage projects in more of a financial and business environment, but project management is project management. It's rare to see someone start one, get it to that point, and then just all of a sudden disassociate.
There's a theory that's out there. Now, I have zero clue if this is true or even remotely accurate in the slightest. However, the rumor that...
Is this a conspiracy theory?
I don't think so. The rumor that I heard ties back to the age-old debate about the stadium anyways. As the project progresses, they're realizing it's not working out to the tune that they would like it to. Whether it's with funding, all the back-end nonsense that goes into a project and developing a new stadium.
Well, also a project where you as the Pagulas said, hey, Buffalo, we only are going to charge you this $800 million. And if there's cost overruns or anything else, we're going to eat that.
Yeah, I don't even think it's that. The rumor is they're starting to see and realize that keeping a stadium in Orchard Park wasn't the move, and it should have been in the city. And the rumor behind that is there was trillions set up to assist the city's infrastructure's updates that now are not being capitalized, because that was the age-old debate between where does the stadium go in the first place. And if you put it in the city, everything about the city can't handle another stadium, specifically Canalside.
But then I brought up the fact, I think, because we've done a stadium series of podcasts.
We've done what, eight different series
now?
And Drew's hit on this, I think, on all of them. The city's infrastructure.
It's the infrastructure, and then it's also the fact that when you, like, the first thing I did when they released their initial report was I took a look and said, okay, these are the two sites you're considering. Okay, let's go to Google Maps and see how many people live there. You have a population density of about 2,600 people. So what you're going to do is you're going to displace a bunch of businesses, and 2,600 of some of the most economically vulnerable people in the city of Buffalo for a stadium? And those people are going to fight you. They're going to get lawyers. They're going to sue. So you can earmark hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in settlements and legal fees and stuff like that if you were to try to make that move. So I can understand why Orchard Park probably felt like the path of least resistance, but there has always been the crowd that's been yelling, because that's always been my thing, is the infrastructure's not there. There's just it's not feasible the way everything's designed unless you're going to redesign the city. Now, if we were to hear that there's more money available and we just didn't take advantage of that opportunity, that's a whole different conversation.
And that's pretty, why else would you can somebody? Like, it has to be a huge reason why you would move on from somebody who's in that position from the jump.
Well, I question whether or not he was fired, and here's the reason. Although it is weird.
That's a good angle, too. What if he stepped down?
I don't know if he's fired, and this is there's a thing here. Chris, remember all the times we talked about how Jerry Jones, the reason, like, you're talking about a very powerful individual. He's the guy who single-handedly scuttled the L.A. plan between the Chargers and the Raiders. And you know why he did it? Well, one, because he's a dickhead, and two, because he's a greedy old fuck. And the guys with greed and ambition who also already have billions in their pockets are unstoppable. And he proved that by basically backdooring Dean Spanos of the Chargers, getting in bed with Stan Kroenke. And the reason why was because he wanted the service contracts for the new stadium, and Spanos told him no. So when the Bills went to go about all this and they brought in Legends Entertainment and Sports, Jerry Jones's company, I was like, guys, that's a great sign for us, because one of the quietly most powerful men in the NFL is on our side trying to help us get this done, which means it's probably going to happen. But what's the back end cost, because he's not doing it out of the goodness of his heart? So after Raccuia moves on, he's apparently, our local journalists can no longer get a hold of him. They're reaching out because he had been very forthcoming in the past. Well, then you turn around and a spokesperson, according to Tim Graham earlier today, comes out with a statement on his behalf. And it's like, well, why does he need a spokesperson if he doesn't work for your organization anymore?
What did it say?
Basically saying that, like, oh, on behalf of him, this is what he has to say. My family thanks the team and thanks the city and blah, 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 blah. Thanks for a lot of niceties. Mm-hmm. He also sold his person, like his company, like AdPro.
Yeah.
He owned that. And throughout the course of, like, a lot of things over the last couple of years, he's maintained that the team did not own AdPro. That was his. It was his organization. He just sold that to Legends Entertainment and Sports. And a part of me wonders, I'm like, is this the price you have to pay in order to do business with Jerry Jones? And we got what we wanted, but also he's like, okay, now you're going to start implementing some of my people into some critical roles so that I can make sure that I get my chunk of things, and that he's the chief operating officer. Well, how do I know that I'm going to get what's due to me as the guy who helps you get this deal done? You're going to hire some people I approve of, and you're going to bring in some people who are going to help me usher in what I think this stadium needs. And the contracts are going to come to my company. And look, Delaware North, local business who's had the contract at what was Rich Stadium, which then became Ralph Wilson, which then became Highmark. They're all of a sudden out the door because Legend Sports says so. I just feel like, having seen him sell his personal company to that group as he's walking out the door, there's something there. Now, am I crazy for thinking?
No, that makes sense.
No, dude, you always got to follow the money.
Yeah.
That's it, follow the money. The money
that.
will tell you. So the fact that he's selling, I bet you that was part of the conversation. Hey, if you step down, it won't matter because we're going to make you a multi-millionaire, and you can afford to go do whatever the fuck you want. You can go like the Shawshank Redemption and go sand a boat on the beach in Mexico if that's what you want to do with the rest of your life. We will make sure you're paid. I noticed that the sale of AdPro hasn't really been broadcast, and there's been no price talked about. So what was the size of that check that he took from Legends to just disappear quietly? And hey, I'm not going to say a word. A spokesperson's going to give my farewell on my behalf.
So now AdPro is also set up in the city, like deep in the city of Buffalo.
Yes.
For different lots around well-established businesses and buildings. Are those gone too?
This is it. This is the discovery process. I can't wait to learn more about this, right, because I'm intrigued.
If you're Jerry Jones, you're looking at the city of Buffalo from your seat. You're not looking at the new stadium only. Like, you're way bigger than that. So you're always playing chess, and you're like, how can I capitalize on a small market team to benefit my own? Like, when's the other shoe dropping?
And that's exactly the thing, is I just see this as a play by Jerry Jones. And I wouldn't have thought that 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago. I would have just taken it like most people are. Oh, he was either fired or he quit. There was some kind of thing in the background. But working in finance and now having followed enough of this stadium stuff where a lot of it just comes out when you look at the money and where it goes, you follow the money and you learn a lot. You guys watch all these white-collar law shows. Money makes most of your choices, makes most of your decisions. It's how most things get decided. I genuinely believe, and I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I am, that Jerry Jones had a lot to do with the ouster of Ron Raccuia.
That makes sense.
Like, if we're just going to draw a straight line, I think that in so many words, this is the price you're paying for getting the stadium done.
Wild.
Derek, you haven't said a ton. What do you think about the location of the new stadium, considering where you live?
I hate traffic. So I'm a big person that just does not like going into the office a lot because when I do, I go in so early so I don't have to deal with traffic. And traffic in downtown just stresses me out because not only is like the underneath infrastructure not there when it comes to sewage and water and all that stuff for a new stadium, neither is the roadways and the throughway and all that stuff getting to the point. And that just stresses me out even more too. So
a hockey game is unbearable.
Exactly. Can you imagine both of them being on the same day?
No.
Because that could happen where Bills game's at 1 and the Sabres game's at night.
Chris, what kind of anarchy would we be looking at down there in that scenario?
I mean,
90, what are you talking about? Let's say the Sabres, because they've been getting better, get a little steam, some season ticket holders come back. All of a sudden, you've added 15,000 to 60,000, so let's call it 78,000 people trying to leave downtown Buffalo at the same time. I'll bring a tent. Entrance. I will bring a tent and sleep in the back of my truck at that point.
Right. And everybody's rushing to Louisiana Street because that's the best exit to go to. Like, it's just so... I wouldn't be against it being down there, but, I mean, everything is already built for Orchard Park. That putting it on the other side of the street just makes sense. But I could totally see the other way. And just the economical or the money going into the city of Buffalo being downtown Buffalo makes a lot of sense, too. So...
If you were going to put both stadiums downtown, you would 100% have to widen the 190 to, I think, two more lanes each way.
Yeah.
In order
the
to
Skyway?
Skyway, I can.
Can we just knock the Skyway down?
Do without.
Like, are you guys anti-Skyway the way I am?
It's not that I'm anti-Skyway.
What are you doing with your headphones?
Dude, it's so loud that I'm
Really?
trying. Yeah, it's so loud. I'm
Chris,
just trying to make it
turn our
comfortable.
guests down.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
I mean, turn it down for everyone.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm
okay.
saying.
Turn me
That's why
down
I
a
just
little bit.
modify mine.
It's okay.
I'm a team player, dude. We're good.
I'm also deaf.
So it's not that I'm. See, that's better.
See, look.
Yeah, that's better.
Look, see.
Can you hear
I
that?
literally turned it down a hair.
That's all you needed.
Chris, touch it a little bit more. We're trying to make our guests feel welcome here and comfortable. Oh, good. Now he shut it off.
Yeah, now we just killed
See,
it.
this is what I mean. Like, this is our dynamic.
Yeah, that's fine. It's not that I'm anti-Skyway. It's just that I have such an appreciation for the Skyway ever since Bruce Almighty.
That's fair. That's fair. I still think you could knock the thing down and no one would give a shit.
Here's the thing. Okay. The containment zone for knocking down the Skyway, I would just want to watch.
You know what? Just push it in. It'll be fine. No one would notice. You just shove it over.
All the waves. The Sullivan would not do well if the Skyway was just pushed into the lake.
See, and this is why I'll never be in public office, because that's my answer to most things. It's just,
down.
what's the most straightforward line to like the resolution? All right, let's just do that. And they go, no, wait, there's all kinds of ancillary concerns. Nah, we've talked about this for more than 20 minutes. I've lost focus. Let's just get it done.
I don't take the Skyway anyway, so I'm really impartial to this decision. Just get rid of it. It's an eyesore. You look out the window and you're like, this looks ugly.
I get on it and I just think to myself, like, or I see people driving on it and the way people drive on it, and I go, you just pull your car over and jump off. Do that for me. But then I make that joke and then someone does it and I go, well, you're gonna have that.
You should not have a license if you change lanes on a bridge, because you're not supposed to change lanes on a bridge. If you change lanes on like the Grand Island Bridge, any bridge, you should not have your license.
There needs to be a second driver's test. You hit a certain age, you're starting to get those AARP
Look at this.
magazines.
I love this guy.
You gotta draw a line in the sand. If you're 65, 70, like that's when we should really start to revisit.
And everyone goes, oh, what would you like that to happen to you? Yes, because I'm pretty sure I'd pass. Pretty sure.
Right.
Meanwhile, the people who are like confusing reverse and drive, Chris
Driving into a Quiznos, yeah.
Chris's girlfriend was almost maimed in a car accident not that long ago.
Oh no.
There's the West Seneca post office, and right next to it is a dental office. Like there's a little strip of grass and then there's this dental office. Woman pulls up to the mailbox.
Just to drop in.
Drops her mail in. Gets confused. People are honking. Doesn't know what to do. Slams it into... First, she reversed first. Hit the car behind her. People start honking. So now she slams it into drive. Drives into the waiting room of the dental office. Into the room. Through the wall. She's now inside.
She didn't go all the way in, but...
It's
Pause.
like... What?
Heavy pause there.
Yeah, it's like... Guys, at a certain point...
Next time you guys go to the West Seneca post office and you just drive through to drop mail in the mail slot...
Like a human?
Look straight forward. You'll see a hole on the side of that house.
This is why we need less humans and more dogs.
I'm not going to lie to you.
Listen, wait, whoa, hold up. Some people may think you are Bruce exclusive now.
Are you Bruce Nolan now? He is. See, I can tell by the look on your face.
Hey.
All right. See, he's not it. He passed the litmus test. So, well, the funny thing is we've met him, Chris. We've been in the room with him.
Bruce Nolan, host of the Bruce exclusive. He doesn't show his face.
Nobody's seen him except for us.
Yeah,
We've
for
been in the same
business
room with him multiple times.
For business reasons, he doesn't show. No one knows what he looks like, so he'll do a podcast, and even if you have him on video, it's just his logo. Nobody knows what he looks like.
And he also uses
that is a term that Bruce Nolan would say.
And he also
people might
uses
think
websites that can obscure, like he won't come on and do a Zoom with you because he goes, well, then you can figure out my IP address. So instead, we'll use Zencaster because Zencaster is just a website where we kind of meet up and you can't get my, it's like,
Seems like a lot of work.
it's a lot of work to maintain. Hey, but I respect the hustle.
Yeah, for sure.
I respect the hustle. So pivoting. Hopkins. Let's talk about this, Chris. Did somebody not on this podcast a couple weeks ago after about 11 drinks rant about how this whole thing was going to end like a wet fart?
Yeah,
And
it did.
And DeAndre Hopkins is now a member of the Tennessee Titans, much like Julio Jones before him, which everyone thought was going to be amazing. I don't know what's funnier, that he decided after all this talk about wanting to go win a ring and I want to be competitive. The guy only has one playoff win in his entire career. I want to go to a team where I can do this and I can do that. And then you sign with a team that literally fired their GM for not paying a wide receiver last year. You traded away A.J. Brown as a franchise.
Hey, Tennessee's got a talented arm.
Are you talking about Derrick Henry? Because he did throw it. I think his passer rating is
Exactly where I was going.
Yeah,
His stiff arm.
passer rating. Well, I was going to say his passer rating. He actually has. He's thrown multiple jump pass touchdowns at the goal line, like Tim Tebow.
Yeah.
I just look at the team and I go, "That's who you." Oh, it was about the money the whole time. Follow the money. Who has the money to pay you? Oh, that team. All right. Well, that's where he's going. No, but he cares, guys. You don't understand. He cares about winning. The fuck these guys do. It's okay, then play for $1 million. If every player who said that they care about winning more than anything really cared about winning, they would play for the veteran minimum. And they would let the team spend all of that money everywhere else, and they would just be there to bask in the glow of a Super Bowl parade. That's not how this works. And he's another example of this. And it's funnier that it's Tennessee because Tennessee goes, hey, you know who we don't need to pay is A.J. Brown.
Right.
Let's draft his, like the Walmart version of Laviska Shenault to replace him. Let's fire him off to Philly, where I'm sure he won't blow up there. And then come back and have a 200-yard game and get the GM fired the next day. And then the new GM shows up and goes, you know what we need is a star wide receiver. We should pay a bunch of money for one. And then they go out and they pay this guy. And it's like, fuck. It's time is funny.
Did you ever really think, though, that Bills would have got him?
No,
Okay,
not ever. And but here's my favorite. So that conversation happens about should they, will they, whatever. Then this BS story gets floated by some no-name. Chris, that story caught a lot of heat, though. About how, like, oh, that was the reason Diggs with the whole blow up with Sean McDermott was about this idea that they were going to bring in Hopkins. And that's why the Bills didn't pull the triggers, because they didn't want to upset this diva wide receiver. Wasn't it the opposite of what they were saying when it first happened? They were like, oh, no, he's mad because they restructured his deal and didn't spend the money to get him. So which is it? Is he mad because you didn't, as a franchise, get a star wide receiver, or is he mad because you were going to? Or does no one actually know what the fuck they're talking about, and it's all just whataboutism?
Option C.
It's all about. Like, do you care that our receiver and quarterback and offensive coordinator and coach weren't all on the same page?
I mean, no.
Do you ever want to fight some of your coworkers?
Absolutely. All the time.
Yes, sir. let the record show.
Chris, are all of your coworkers gems that you see eye to eye with on everything?
Absolutely not. I come home and yell about people to Jessica and the way they do things. I wouldn't do it that way, but I mean, you just look like an idiot.
So I just like the fact, though, that he was tied to multiple teams, but specifically the Patriots. Everyone's like, oh my God, he's going to go to the Patriots. Who gives a shit?
Well, that's where Dalvin Cook is tagged to too, which is
Awesome.
another thing.
Well, we'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
So here you've got this Hopkins thing that's brewing, and the Patriots might have gotten him. Even if you had given the Patriots Hopkins, were they a threat to Buffalo?
Absolutely not.
No.
No.
And remember when they drafted?
But Mac Jones gained a lot of weight this year, though. He looks good.
Oh, whatever. do you remember when the Patriots drafted the new age Larry Fitzgerald, and no one's ever heard of that dude since draft day?
Oh, wait, well, hang on a second. They've drafted so many wide receivers that didn't pan out.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
It's embarrassing.
In the
It's
last
embarrassing.
in the last 4 years, it's been really ramped up. I'm like, guys, what is happening? You're like the Browns trying to find a quarterback.
So it's this AFC, and this is why I love this AFC's Roundup podcast that we do every week. We bring in a podcaster from each franchise who covers each, and every week it's like, guys, what the fuck happened to you? And it's been fun because the year we decided to start doing it was the year that Tom Brady retired, and we were like, okay, clean slate for everybody. Let's start doing this. Wide open field. It just so happened to coincide with the Bills kind of running shit from here on out. Well, the Dolphins conversations have been fun over the last year or two. The Patriots conversations have just gotten hilarious. Like, now they've become soup cans. It's like, Chris, what do they call them in wrestling? When you just have a guy who's there to showcase somebody else.
A jobber.
A jobber. The Patriots are jobbers in the AFC East. They're just here to get beaten up by everybody else. And it's funny to me when you think about it in terms of how poorly they've drafted. It's every wide receiver they've touched, and it's every cornerback that they've drafted in the second round. There's a litany of them that are just awful. They never produce, and yet you wasted a top 60 pick on that guy. And everyone wants to talk about what a genius Bill Belichick is. Get a real GM. Let him be a coach, but he can't be the guy calling all the shots. The problem is a real GM would have fired Bill Belichick after his fourth losing season.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. Is how long does he stay around for? Because you kind of want to go out on top, and at this point, it's gone.
He wants Shula's record.
Yeah.
And we talked about it a week ago. The owner says he wants a ring. Something's going to break here soon if he can't start winning games. And the fact that you can't recruit anyone in free agency, the fact that you can't draft well, but he's still allowing you to run the show means he's giving you the rope he needs. You're going to hang yourself at a certain point, right?
Well, and now, I mean, the Jets arguably got better. So now they don't even have a team to pick on. I mean, McCorkle and Zach Wilson can duel out over who sucks more, but they at least had 2 times a year that they could beat somebody like in the division. Now, I mean, that doesn't exist. Yeah.
I don't know if the Patriots go. If the Patriots get 3 wins inside the division this year, I'll be shocked. Yeah. No, I will be. And I think I'm being reasonable in saying that. I think that everybody else got better, and they kind of tread water over the course of this offseason.
Yeah, with or without a Tua injury.
Well, that's it. That's the big matzo ball in the air. So I love watching ESPN, all of these things. Now, I don't watch ESPN, obviously. But Chris, do you watch ESPN anymore?
No, I only am aware of ESPN when Mike Tannenbaum says something stupid.
Do you gentlemen watch ESPN?
No.
Okay. I remember a time when
I still wonder why he was not a part of all these layoffs that they have.
Because they need somebody to say something inflammatory. They're like, you know what? He doesn't realize he's a jester. He's getting paid nothing. I guarantee you his contract is peanuts. Like they give him enough that he can buy things from the vending machine and he can go out for a steak dinner once a week and he feels like that's winning. So he's like, see, I'm on top. He goes home and tells his wife, honey, I'm killing it still. I'm on top. So I look at this and I go, in my house, there used to be a small TV in the corner of our living room that just nonstop 24/7 had ESPN on. Always. And then there was the main TV because it was a bachelor pad. And that was pretty cool when you're sharing a house with a bunch of dudes and you just know you can walk through the living room and it's just on. Sports Center is just on all day. Now, no one pays attention to this. We have Twitter. We have the internet. You can find anything you want. But I love seeing all the screenshots of how every talking head at ESPN is picking. Like, Dan Orlovsky is the only person who thinks that the Bills can win the AFC East, apparently. In all of Connecticut, there's only one person who thinks that the Bills can win the division this year. Did the other teams really get that much better? I mean, Aaron Rodgers. Is Aaron Rodgers, he's an upgrade over nothing.
Right.
But what is that worth? Because we played in Aaron Rodgers with a decent Packers team. They were on the bubble for the playoffs last year.
My favorite part of that is he's like, get me wide receivers. Then he goes to Judge. He's like, give me all the same wide receivers I had.
Give me all the... Also, bring all the shitty wide receivers that I used to have. And Alan Lazard, that contract, it's one of the funnier things. Because you could have seen it coming a mile away. Yeah. And then he's like, oh, also the ghost of Randall Cobb. I don't know what he's going to do other than float around the facility and go, ooh. But he's there now. He's there and he's cashing a check. Yeah. So New England, nothing that moves the needle. Now, what I like is that even Miami, like, what did they do to get better?
I'm not remotely worried about Miami. I'm really only concerned out of the entire AFC East is the Jets' defense.
Okay, that's fair.
That's it.
That's fair.
Miami's defense is decent, though.
Now, Delvin Cook.
Yeah, but like Chubb was supposed to be the end-all, be-all for Miami, and he's just like...
Oh, he's just a dude?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because what you're finding out is that unless you're... They wanted to believe that Nick Chubb was their Von Miller. The problem is that there is... Like, Von Miller is a one of one.
Right.
There's a dude. There's only one guy. There's a reason that the year, like, think about it. Peyton Manning wins the Super Bowl, doesn't win Super Bowl MVP. When's the last time a defensive player won Super Bowl MVP?
Maybe Ray Lewis?
I think he just stabbed a guy.
Also true.
I think that's all he did. I don't know if he actually got an award. Chris, can you check Google and see if he got an award for that?
Dude,
can you
not guilty.
Can you check and see if he won an award for that?
He's less guilty than OJ.
Debatable.
Okay, but
Listen,
okay.
Stabbing's a stabbing.
Stabbing's a stabbing.
What do you want?
On the scale of guiltiness, like if we want to talk about this.
Yeah, pull up the stats, the real stats.
Here's...
Von Miller 2016.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be it.
Yeah. When's the last time a defensive player won it? He's that fucking good. He is a preeminent.
And that's what I'm saying. So before Von Miller was who?
Malcolm Smith.
Oh, Malcolm Smith, because he had like a scoop and score, and that doesn't count. Not in a blowout.
He didn't like
Dexter Jackson, Ray Lewis.
See, it was Ray. We all know it was Ray in 01.
That was pre-stabbing.
Nah, it was pre-stabbing.
And that was, arguably one of the greatest defenses ever.
Oh, no. Trust me, I'm a Ravens aficionado. I love that team. I love the Ravens point-blank and period. I just wish they weren't in our conference because then I could be more outward about how much I enjoy them.
It's fair.
But also, Ray Lewis is, like, as a fellow crazy person, like, just to tear down the wall here.
I wouldn't stab someone.
So last night I decided that another tequila cocktail and BattleBots was more important than going to sleep at a reasonable hour.
Okay.
So then I got up and I went to the gym, and then I came home and I'm working, and my wife's we're both working from home, and she's floating around going, "Is everything okay? Are you cool? Like, you seem very manic." And I was like, what are you talking about? Now I say, what are you talking about? Knowing that I'm the guy who's downstairs blasting smelling salts because I'm on the ropes, right? Like, I am on the ropes at 11 o'clock in the morning, and I'm just trying to get to lunch. And it's like, I understand how some of these people who are wired like psychopaths, I get it. You're like, no, I'm focused. I'm hyper-focused, and I'm amped. I respect crazy people, and that's why I like Ray Lewis, is because he didn't have an off switch. He had that all the time. That's just how he lived. And I go, God, I can only get here through like chemical enhancement. This guy just walked the earth at this speed.
Yeah.
That's respectable.
Same with Brian Dawkins.
Oh, yeah. All of these guys, anyone who was great, they're a lunatic.
Yes.
All of them, to a man, are crazy people. Like, I got to experience that today for a handful of hours, and I got to tell you, it's intense. I don't want to do it. Like, I don't think I could do it for very long.
Weird question. Would you say 98 to 05 NFL is as great as steroid era MLB?
Yes, because there was jacked up on ESPN, and you saw guys who were just leveling each other with no mercy. Leveling each other with no mercy.
In 550-foot home runs, snapping bats over knees.
Like Sammy
veins
Sosa
everywhere.
and Mark McGwire save baseball. I don't care what anyone says, because I still hate the sport. I still think the sport's stupid. The sport isn't stupid. I think televised MLB baseball is garbage, and I won't watch it. Derek's over here
It's the exact same way. Completely agree. This kid loves it.
yes!
Oh, yeah.
Up top. So, Chris is a baseball fan. Sometimes we'll be in here recording, and he'll put a baseball game on just to piss me off.
I like it.
Yeah, I've got MLB.TV.
So,
Weird flex.
I bring up Paul O'Neill to Derek, and he stares at me, and he's like, who hurt you?
who hurt you?
Paul O'Neill is one of the greats.
I don't know, maybe the guy that put that kid in the hospital in Seinfeld? You know, because he needed Paul O'Neill to hit some home runs.
Great reference. I give you that.
Well, and this is what I like about the contrast. Like, if we're talking about our respective podcasts, this is what I appreciate about them, is that you guys have this, listening to your shows, you guys have this sense of comedy, but it's genuinely funny, and you guys try to be like, I don't want to say that you avoid being irreverent, or that you, because you guys are funny. It's just like, if we were to compare you guys, like, we're Don Rickles. Somebody has to be getting hurt in the process of, like, my joke, or else it's not funny. Like, I don't get any enjoyment out of it.
Sure.
We're not great people. Like, Chris, admittedly bad people.
Yes, we are.
I think we did a YouTube show a couple weeks ago, and it was literally just us dunking on the whole sub incident. And I'm just like, well, sorry. And everyone's like, that's not really sad. My wife is like, you guys didn't.
I think that video got like shadow banned.
I'm positive it did.
You know, you guys know that GIF of it's been 84 years from the movie. So I used her face, him shirtless, and wrote, "It's been 84 years." And I think YouTube was not too fond of that headline.
They weren't thrilled, huh?
Well, it's funny when you watch your views and all of a sudden you're like, oh, this one just fell off the map.
Yep.
That's hilarious. Rightfully so, though, because I'm not going to lie to you, it was bad. Like, this is one of those nights where you get deep into the bourbon, and then you're like, let's talk about a sensitive topic. I'm sure we'll be nuanced, and I'm sure we'll be really sensitive about it. And our sensibilities will be about us as we discuss this thing. You guys do a great job of weaving humor into day-to-day stuff, sports topics, or not sports topics, but like sometimes you guys have talked about sports, but then you talk about things like, what was one the other day I was listening to as I was going back through in preparation for this? I want to say it was like something about if you were a dictator's wife.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's rules to be the dictator's wife. Just insanity, and we went off the rails. But no, thank you. We appreciate that.
But that was based off, like we were talking about, based off a useless fact, because the useless fact of the day was the fact that if you're a dictator's wife, you can't be called by your real name. So that was only because Kim Jong-un's wife.
The way you were now I'm thinking back, and I'm like, no. That's how the conversation started. And then from there, it just became
a thing. And then it's been 40 minutes, and we're just talking about, well, yeah, you're the wife. We also just recently talked about foods you'll never eat again. So mine was a veal dish that my mom butchered when I was a kid, and I still talk about it with my sister 25 years later. I just can't eat veal ever again because she ruined it for my life. And then liver and onions. But yeah, I don't know. We just have. Is there anything? Now we need your input. Is there any meal that you would never eat?
Bacardi.
What?
Bacardi. Because remember, I threw up in my hoodie.
Oh yeah.
Remember, I drove home when I shouldn't have.
Chris drank.
I got home into my apartment and I was like, all right, I'm gonna puke. And even though the bathroom is like a good 5 feet away, I can clearly get there. I decided to take off my hoodie, and I puked in the hood of the hoodie. And then I passed out on the floor right there. So I can't do Bacardi white.
It was a solid night.
Yeah.
These guys are like, wait a minute, who are we? We agreed to this? No, it's funny. Like, if there was a food that I'll never touch again, it's literally anything you put green olives on. Olives are the worst thing on earth. They're nonsense. They don't need to exist. They're not a part of any ecosystem or food chain. There is no animal that thrives on olives.
Black olives too?
That was my question.
You can take a black olive, and if you dice it up and put it in enough stuff, like my mom makes this tapenade thing that's barely tolerable because she puts enough other crap in with it. If it was just olives, done.
Isn't that what
touching it.
tapenade is? Just olives?
Yeah, but then she mixes other things into it, and so I'm able to eat that. Olives, you can look it up. They're not like part of the food chain in terms of like, oh, this vegetation also feeds an animal. It's almost strictly a human thing. We grow them and we eat them, and I don't understand why.
What are they? Are they legumes?
Chris, why don't you give that a goog? So pull it up here on this screen.
Are you serious? Where did that come from?
Give it a goog. What is an
bro.
olive? What is an olive?
I think it's a legume. I don't
Either
know. It's
way,
not a vegetable, but
whatever it is something that we should take all of it. Like, let's see. Oh, the olive, botanical name, blah, blah, blah. Small trees and shrubs.
Temporal range.
The olive's fruit is it's called a fruit? See, one more reason to hate it. That makes because they're going to go, all the seeds are on the inside, so it's a fruit. I don't know
Did
what
you know
the
that a
difference is.
banana is actually a berry?
See, this is where I'll flip this table. These are the conversations where I just, Chris, I can't handle it. I will never eat an olive ever again. One time, my mom made stuffed olives when I was a child.
Here we go.
And I was like, "Here we go, a big fat green olive." Oh, sure, as a kid, and I still remember the texture, and I remember the taste, and the fact that even after I spit it out, that taste lingered for like 2 hours. I couldn't get rid of it. And at like 6 or 7 years old, like I'm scarred now. Fuck that olive. Fuck all olives. I think we should raise them to the ground and then salt the earth they were grown on so that we don't have to deal with them anymore. That's how I feel.
I love that.
Guys, this is the type of stuff you can expect to get from the Buffalo Happy Hour podcast. They do a great job of coming in here talking a little sports, but also bringing their... I love you guys.
Useless knowledge.
Yeah. I don't even know if you call it useless. The funny thing is, Chris, they're smarter than both of us.
Debatable. Very
debatable.
Well, I was going to say his hair is definitely better than yours.
No.
You use like 12 words that I haven't heard of spoken in a sentence correctly
That's
since...
just olives, dude. Don't worry about it.
I know. It was a big one, though.
It was a big one. Guys, this has been fun, but we're going to wrap this. I'm Drew Gear. That's Chris Kruger. This is Chris and Derek from the Buffalo Happy Hour podcast. Where can they find your show? Where can they find you on social?
Buffalo Happy Hour on YouTube, official Buffalo Happy Hour on Instagram, and what else?
I mean, we're on Threads, we're on YouTube,
Yeah,
we're on Google, we're on every podcast platform possible. If you just search one of our names with Buffalo
Spotify,
Happy Hour,
Apple
will show up.
Podcast,
Yeah,
everything.
all the things.
And this has been your Rockpile Report.